Most people think recessions hit every state the same way. Some job losses, a few business closures, and a slow recovery. But the next recession won't be normal, because beneath the surface, 5 US states are already hanging by a thread, crushed by debt, dependent on shrinking industries, losing population faster than they can replace it, and held together by fragile budgets that only work when the economy is booming. One sharp downturn, one bad year, and these states could break in ways nobody is prepared for. Tonight, we're diving into the 5 US states least likely to survive the coming recession, and the hidden economic bombs ticking beneath each one. 1. Illinois, the bankruptcy blueprint. If there's one state economists point to when they talk about what a fiscal collapse looks like, it's Illinois. For years, the state has been balancing on the edge, patching holes, borrowing money, raising taxes, and pretending everything is fine. But underneath the surface, Illinois isn't just struggling, it's structurally broken. And in the next recession, it may not just suffer, it may finally break. The state already in crisis, even before a downturn. Illinois is the closest thing America has to a state that's already bankrupt. Its financial problems are so massive, so deep, and so entrenched that even during good economic times, the numbers barely make sense. Here's the core problem. Illinois owes more money than it can ever realistically pay back. Over $140 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. More than $60 billion in retiree healthcare debt. Billions more in unpaid bills and interest penalties. The worst credit rating of any state in America. This isn't a debt problem, this is a debt trap. And a recession is the trigger. While other states save during good years, Illinois uses surplus revenue to plug old holes, not build new foundations. That means when the economy dips, Illinois has no cushion and nowhere to hide. The population collapse. Nobody wants to talk about. A recession hurts every state, but Illinois has a unique weakness. People are fleeing. The state has been losing residents for an entire decade. Families, retirees, businesses, and young workers are escaping the taxes, escaping the debt, and escaping the feeling that Illinois is sinking. Every person who leaves takes their tax dollars with them. Every household that moves away increases the burden on those who stay. So now imagine what happens in a recession. More job losses, more businesses closing, more people fleeing for cheaper states, property values falling, tax revenue collapsing, and all while Illinois still owes billions every single day. It's a downward spiral that accelerates the moment the economy slows. The tax trap that drives the middle class out. Illinois already has the highest property taxes out in the Midwest, some of the highest in the entire country. Rising income taxes, endless local fees, assessments, and surcharges. People aren't leaving because they want warmer weather. They're leaving because Illinois taxes you like a millionaire. Even if you're middle class, a recession would push desperate local governments to raise taxes again to cover revenue shortfalls. And each new increase drives more residents away, shrinking the tax base even faster. It's a vicious cycle that economists call the Illinois doom loop. Chicago, the engine that's starting to shake. The entire state relies heavily on Chicago to survive, but Chicago has its own recession vulnerabilities. Plunging downtown office occupancy, record commercial vacancies, retail collapse, rising crime pushing residents outward, a shrinking corporate footprint, a police and pension system drowning in costs. If Chicago weakens, Illinois weakens. If Chicago collapses, Illinois collapses. It's that simple. The trigger, what a recession would do. If the country enters a recession, Illinois would face an immediate drop in income tax revenue, falling property taxes as values decline, shrinking sales tax revenue, a surge in pension obligations, rising unemployment benefit costs, more residents leaving, more businesses closing, higher borrowing costs due to junk-level credit. It's the perfect storm. And unlike most states, Illinois has no margin for error. Most states suffer in recessions. Illinois breaks. The bottom line: Illinois isn't headed toward crisis. It's already in one, quietly, slowly, structurally collapsing behind the scenes. A recession doesn't create new problems for Illinois. It exposes the old ones, and this time, the cracks are too deep to paper over. When the next downturn hits, Illinois won't just struggle, it may become the first modern US state to face a full fiscal meltdown, a bankruptcy blueprint other states pray they never follow. 2. New York. The debt-fueled empire. New York has always lived big. Big skyline, big money, big dreams. And behind it all, a big, unstoppable economy driven by Wall Street, tourism, global investment, and some of the wealthiest taxpayers in America. But that unstoppable engine is starting to sputter. And in a recession, New York wouldn't just slow down, it could fall apart. Because the state's entire financial model depends on 3 fragile pillars. And all 3 are already cracking. Pillar 1. Wall Street is the state's lifeline, and it's fading. No state in America is more dependent on one industry than New York is on financial services. 20% of all state tax revenue, 6% of all jobs, massive capital gains, bonuses that keep NYC alive, trading profits that fund entire agencies. When the stock market drops, New York feels it instantly. During the 2008 recession, Wall Street bonuses fell by nearly 50%, and New York's budget imploded. Now imagine that happening today, in a state with far higher costs, higher debts, and a weaker middle class. If the market crashes or trading slows, New York loses billions overnight, not millions. Billions. It is the most recession-sensitive state in the country for one simple reason: its economy rises and falls with the stock tickers. Pillar 2. The office vacancy crisis is worse than anyone admits. The pandemic changed everything, and New York City still hasn't recovered. Office towers once valued at $500 million are now worth $120 million. Some landlords are walking away, others are begging banks for mercy. Vacancy rates in Midtown and downtown Manhattan are at historic highs, and many buildings may never be fully occupied again. Here's why this matters. New York City relies heavily on commercial real estate taxes. If values collapse, tax revenue follows. A recession accelerates that collapse. It's not a slow bleed, it's a free fall. Pillar 3. The rich are leaving, and they take the state budget to them. For years, New York was the ultimate magnet for the wealthy, but the last decade brought something new: a full-scale millionaire exodus. Florida, Texas, Tennessee, North Carolina, even Nevada, thousands of high-income residents have already left, and many more have quietly moved their tax residences without leaving physically. Here's the terrifying part. The top 1% of taxpayers fund almost half of New York's entire state income tax revenue. Just a small, recession-driven migration, 3,000 to 5,000 high earners, could blow a hole in the budget the size of a small country. This isn't speculation, it's already happening, and a recession makes it permanent. Tourism, the state's safety net, is in trouble. New York City depends on hotels, restaurants, retail, Broadway, conventions, international visitors. But with crime rising, costs soaring, and global travel slowing, NYC's tourism rebound is shaky. One recession, one bad year, and those 62 million annual visitors vanish. The businesses they fuel, thousands would close overnight, and when the businesses collapse, so does the tax revenue. The spending problem nobody wants to touch. New York spends more per resident than any state except Alaska. Social programs, public unions, pensions, housing assistance, Medicaid, everything is expensive. In a recession, more families need help, more businesses close, tax revenue plummets, government spending increases. It's the worst possible combination. And New York has no plan for it. The trigger: what a recession would do. A downturn would slam every weak point at once. Wall Street profits fall. Office values collapse further. Tourism dries up. Millionaires move out permanently. Commercial bankruptcies surge. Transit systems lose revenue. Homelessness costs explode. State debt skyrockets. It's a domino chain with no stops. The bottom line: New York survived the 1970s fiscal crisis. It survived 9/11. It survived 2008. It even survived 2020. But this time is different because the cracks aren't isolated. They're everywhere. Wall Street is vulnerable. Real estate is collapsing. Population is declining. Costs are exploding. New York is an empire built on momentum, and that momentum is running out. In the next recession, it won't take much to push the state from struggling to spiraling to something far worse. 3. California, the tech bubble time bomb. If there's one state America assumes will always bounce back, it's California. Land of startups, land of billionaires, land of endless sunshine and endless money. But beneath the palm trees and venture capital glow, California is sitting on one of the most dangerous recession risks in the entire country. A risk so massive that one bad downturn could break the state's budget, crush its housing market, and trigger an exodus bigger than anything we've seen so far. Because California isn't just vulnerable, it's structurally dependent on a fragile, overinflated tech economy, a bubble that's already leaking air. The state with a budget built on billionaires. Here's the truth nobody in Sacramento wants to say out loud. California's entire budget depends on whether rich people have a good year. Not sort of, not partly, completely. The top 1% of California taxpayers pay nearly 50% of all income taxes. And what do those top earners rely on? Tech stocks, capital gains, IPO windfalls, venture payouts, corporate bonuses. When tech is booming, California looks like a golden paradise. When tech slows down, even a little, the budget bleeds billions. And in a recession, those gains evaporate instantly. That's why California went from a $100 billion surplus to a $68 billion deficit in less than 2 years. This isn't a budget, it's a roller coaster strapped to Silicon Valley's stock price. The tech layoff wave is just the beginning. Over the last 2 years, Silicon Valley giants quietly laid off more than 200,000 workers. Google, Meta, Amazon, Tesla, Apple contractors, startups collapsing before they even reach Series B. But here's the scary part. Those layoffs happen during economic growth. During a recession, they won't be layoffs, they'll be purges. And every tech job doesn't just support one worker, it supports an entire ecosystem. Restaurants, contractors, retail, real estate, childcare, transportation, construction. When tech slows, the entire state slows. The housing market that cannot survive a downturn. California's housing prices aren't high because the buildings are special. They're high because tech workers bid them into the stratosphere with stock option money. So what happens when those workers lose jobs, or leave for cheaper states, or decide they don't want to pay $4,700 a month for a one-bedroom anymore? The bubble pops. A recession would tank home values in the Bay Area, crush rental demand, freeze new construction, force cities to cut budgets, cause commercial real estate to spiral even faster. California's entire real estate machine is propped up by tech wealth. Take that away, and the whole structure shakes. The homelessness and welfare burden explodes in recessions. California already has the nation's largest homeless population, the highest poverty rate when adjusted for cost of living, the most expensive welfare programs, some of the highest housing subsidies in America. A recession increases all of those simultaneously. More people need help. More renters fall behind, more homeowners default, more cities face budget emergencies, more state programs get stretched to the breaking point, and because California taxes the wealthy so aggressively, high-income earners tend to leave a right when the state needs them most. A recession means fewer rich people and no backup plan. California has no real safety net because it taxes high earners too heavily. It relies too much on capital gains. It overspends during good years. It undersaves for bad ones. Its debt obligations are enormous. When the wealthy leave, they don't come back. When tech slows, it doesn't rebound instantly. When revenue collapses, California has to borrow at huge costs. A recession exposes the flaw in California's system. It only works in boom years. The bottom line. California looks invincible, but the truth is, it's one of the most recession-sensitive states in the country because its budget depends on billionaires, its economy depends on tech, its housing market depends on speculation, its services depend on unlimited revenue, and its population is already fleeing in record numbers. California isn't just unprepared for a recession, it's built in a way that guarantees the next downturn will hit it harder than almost anywhere else. The tech bubble doesn't need to burst completely, it just needs to wobble. And if that happens, California won't just struggle, it will face a financial earthquake that shakes the entire state. 4. Louisiana, the shrinking coast and dying economy. Louisiana isn't facing a recession in the traditional sense, it's facing something far worse. A long-term slow-motion collapse. That a recession would accelerate beyond repair. Where other states have economic weaknesses, Louisiana has structural ones. The kind that don't bounce back when the stock market does. The kind that don't heal with a stimulus check. The kind that don't get fixed by waiting for the cycle to turn. Because Louisiana's biggest threats aren't cyclical, they're permanent. A state literally disappearing into the ocean. This isn't a metaphor. Louisiana is vanishing, the coastline is receding, wetlands are collapsing, whole communities are sinking into the Gulf. Every hour, Louisiana loses the equivalent of a football field of land. A single hour. And the losses aren't slowing down, they're accelerating. A recession won't just weaken Louisiana's economy, it will destroy the funds the state desperately needs to keep rebuilding what nature keeps taking. Infrastructure breaks faster than Louisiana can afford to fix it. And when budgets tighten nationally, coastal restoration is one of the first things Washington cuts. The insurance market has already collapsed. Louisiana doesn't need a recession to trigger an insurance crisis. It already has one. 7+ major insurers pulled out. Premiums skyrocketed. Some homeowners saw 200 to 300% increases. Entire coastal communities became uninsurable. This pushes families out. It pushes businesses out. It collapses property values. During a recession, insurance companies tighten risk even further. Reinsurance costs spike. State-backed insurers run out of money, meaning thousands of homes could instantly become worthless on paper. This is the same cycle that destroyed parts of Florida, but Louisiana has even fewer financial buffers. The oil and gas industry isn't coming back. For decades, Louisiana's economy revolved around offshore drilling, refineries, and pipelines, but that industry is shrinking fast. Federal restrictions, environmental lawsuits, global price swings, aging infrastructure, workforce decline, companies moving to Texas. Every year, the state loses more oil jobs. Every year, refineries cut staff. Every year, energy companies relocate headquarters. A recession accelerates all of this. Energy prices crash, projects stall, rigs shut down, investments freeze. Louisiana doesn't have a replacement industry lined up. Its economy is still tied to the past, and the past is disappearing. Montreal, one of the poorest populations in America. Louisiana ranks near the bottom in almost every economic metric: poverty, education, healthcare, crime, business growth, infrastructure, wages. This means two things. One, the workforce cannot absorb recession-level job losses. Two, the state cannot generate enough tax revenue to survive downturns. When a recession hits, low-income states suffer the most because they lack both savings and high-wage industries to cushion the fall. Louisiana checks both boxes. A population already in free fall. Louisiana is one of the fastest shrinking states in the country. People aren't just leaving for better jobs. They're leaving because the environment is collapsing, the insurance market is broken, the economy is stagnant, and the future looks bleak. A recession guarantees the outflow becomes a stampede. Population loss, declining tax revenue, budget cuts, weaker services, more people leave, even less revenue, total collapse. It's the death spiral economists fear most. The bottom line. Louisiana isn't just vulnerable to a recession, it's already experiencing a form of economic decay most states won't face for decades. And the next recession is the accelerant, the spark that hits a landscape already soaked in gasoline. Because you can fix a budget deficit, you can replace a governor, you can diversify an economy, but you can't fix land that sinks, insurers that leave, industries that die, populations that flee, coastlines that disappear into the ocean. Louisiana isn't built to withstand a downturn, it's built to fail the moment one arrives. 5. New Jersey, the tax-trapped state on the brink. If you want to see what happens when a state slowly prices itself out of existence, New Jersey is the case study. For decades, the state survived by taxing its way out of every crisis. Higher income taxes, higher tolls, higher sales taxes, higher everything. But the biggest monster in the room is one New Jersey has never been able to outrun: the highest property taxes in the entire United States. And those taxes, combined with crushing debt and a shrinking middle class, have put the state in a position where one recession could tip it into a full-blown financial disaster. The property tax burden that's breaking families. New Jersey's property taxes aren't just high, they're devastating. Over 2% of home value every single year to, on average, $9,000 on a modest house, $15,000 plus on a typical suburban home, $25,000 plus in higher income counties. Many homeowners are essentially paying a mega-second mortgage forever, even after the actual mortgage is gone. And in a recession, when incomes fall, jobs disappear, and home values drop, those taxes won't fall with them. They never do. New Jersey is addicted to the revenue. Cities and school districts simply demand too much money. The result? Mass delinquency, rising foreclosures, and an even faster middle-class exodus. A pension crisis no one can solve. New Jersey's pension system is one of the worst funded in America. Decades of overpromising and underfunding left the state with billions in unfunded liabilities, massive interest payments, pension obligations that eat the budget alive. A recession is deadly for pensions. When markets crash, pension funds lose value, but benefits still have to be paid, so the state will have to borrow more, raise taxes again, or slash services, probably all three. The middle-class exodus that never stops. New Jersey loses residents every year, not slowly, but aggressively. Families move to Pennsylvania, Delaware, North Carolina, Florida, Texas. anywhere that taxes don't feel like punishment. This creates a vicious cycle. People leave. Tax base shrinks. Taxes rise to compensate. More people leave. In a recession, this cycle becomes a runaway train. The cost structure that makes recovery impossible. New Jersey is expensive in all the wrong ways. Bloated municipal governments, dozens of overlapping agencies, endless school districts, high public sector salaries, massive administrative overhead, crumbling infrastructure needing constant repair. Even in good times, New Jersey can barely afford itself. In bad times, the math simply doesn't work. The government can't cut costs fast enough. It can't raise taxes without driving more residents away. It can't borrow without being punished by credit agencies. It's trapped, and recessions expose traps. The hidden threat: a housing market built on fragile demand. New Jersey suburbs depend heavily on New York commuters, high-income earners, professional class families. But with remote work rising and NYC struggling, the demand that props up New Jersey's home values is already shrinking. In a recession, NYC job cuts / commuting patterns. Remote workers relocate permanently. Home values stagnate or fall. Property taxes stay high anyway. This creates the worst condition for homeowners. Falling prices plus rising taxes. No state survives that combination for long. Nakrod. The bottom line: New Jersey is a state living beyond its means, held together by high taxes, heavy borrowing, and residents who haven't yet reached their financial breaking point. A recession changes everything, because it hits every New Jersey weakness at once. High taxes, high debt, falling home values, shrinking population, pension losses, budget shortfalls, business closures. Other states struggle in recessions. New Jersey drowns in them. And unless the state completely restructures its finances, something politicians are terrified to do, the next downturn could push New Jersey from barely stable to open fiscal distress. It won't just suffer in a recession. It may not survive it.